We are all in. We are all in. We are all in. Break it down. Team 03. 1, 2, 3. Good job tonight, man.
A very happy Lincoln Golden Bear football team and a very happy coach in Brad Wallace. You heard him over the air just on Thursday night, just a minute ago. We're talking to him right now, right here on the Lincoln Playbook. First of all, Coach, a 38-7 win over Moody on Thursday night. First off, talk about this team's win and this dominating performance.
Well, I mean, we called it our new season, and I know I keep bringing that up each week, but our kids have we've taken major steps each week,
right,
and we've gotten so much better since week 5, and we're probably. I keep hearing it a lot, but we're probably one of the hottest teams around right now.
Absolutely.
And our kids' practice habits and the way we go about our business right now is so much better, and it's showing up on Friday and Thursday night. So
talk about the things that changed. We'll get into some of the details as far as Thursday night's game, but talk about some of the things that have changed over the course. Because like you talked about, you're one of the hottest teams in the state right now, and really a lot of things are starting to show up for you guys.
Well, I think it's a little bit more. The kids are paying attention to detail a little bit more than what it used to be, and a coach that I had in college, Coach Nix, he used to say little things make big things happen.
Right.
And that was one of the things that we've done with our football team is we've really sat back and said, all right, we need to correct this, and this, and these little things will make a lot of big things happen for our offense, especially. Defensively, our guys have just been taking strides each week. I even think since game 1 that they've taken strides on that side of the ball of getting themselves better and doing a better job out there on the field.
You guys had to play on Thursday night, a short week. Then you had all the things with Talladega that come up. And you've been through this before as far as race week goes. Talk about the way the kids handled the practice and the preparation. Obviously, the game took care of itself.
Well, I told them it was a juggernaut because Sunday afternoon we had to get a practice in,
right,
and they've only had a day's rest from a full game, and they came in, and I had every one of them. It was 100% attendance on that Sunday afternoon, and we went out and we had a fantastic Sunday afternoon practice. Got ourselves lined up, did what we were supposed to. We had to have actually a defensive practice that day.
Right.
My defensive coordinator had a baby on Sunday, so I mean on Monday.
Right.
So we had to have a defensive practice, so it's been it was a trying week this week. This was probably one of the most hectic weeks that we've had.
Right.
But our kids handled it well. They went through it like it was nothing.
Absolutely.
And so they played on for Thursday night like I knew they could.
For the second straight week, you score 30-plus points in a game. You talked about the defense earlier. Talk about the way this offense is rolling.
Our offense, I mean, first off, our captain, Zay Caldwell, I mean, he's the center of what everything starts out with that football. And he's got a good group behind him, Montrell and LJ, at our running back position. And then you turn around and you got Devontae Whiteside and you got P.J. Gaddis and
right,
you got Quinn Carter and Zeke Morgan that are playing those receivers, and they've all complemented each other very well, and it's almost like it's like clockwork the way they're doing things right now, and it's not as much pressure. It's more relaxed and laid back, and like I said, we took a lot of stuff away from them that we started doing at the beginning of the season, and just made everything simple. And it seemed to make our offense a lot faster.
Absolutely. It made a big deal and made a big difference in the last 4 or 5 weeks. It's obviously made a big difference on Thursday night. You'll catch the highlights of Lincoln and Moody in a dominating win for the Golden Bears coming up in our next segment. But first, we want to thank one of our fine sponsors on this show, Luxury Auto Parts. Go visit Lee McLean and the folks at luxuryautoparts.com or insurancedirectautos.com. 205-763-1084 is the number to call, or you can call 1-888-589-PARTS. We thank them for their support. We're back with more of the Playbook after the break. We're back with the Lincoln Playbook. First half highlights of Lincoln's Thursday night contest against Moody. First off, Coach, talk about some of the things you wanted to see out of your guys early on.
Well, this was the first ball game that we've come out in the first series of offense, and it just moved the ball methodically right down the field like we were supposed to.
Right.
And our offensive line did a great job of keeping pressure off of Zay, and Zay got to pick and choose what he wanted to throw. And our running backs did a good job complementing what was going on. And I mean, when you got all that going on, we have some plays now where there's actually three ways that ball could be used. It could either be ran, it could be ran by the quarterback, or it could be thrown on the outside. And that's hard to cover up. And our guys are starting to understand that. And we just methodically just drove the field.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I loved how our kids came out on the field.
It seems to me that whenever you guys get off to a good start, that's usually a good omen. Over the last maybe 4 or 5 weeks, you guys have gotten off to strong starts on offense and kind of led a defense, or vice versa, where defense leads to the offense.
Well, that's one of the things. That was a hard lick by Quinn Carter on that play. But we wanted things to be. We don't want to sit back and wait, and I think we did that in the first 4 or 5 ball games. We sat back and waited to find out what we were going to get, and then in these last 4 or 5 ball games, we've actually went out and taken control at the beginning of the ball game and not fill out what's going to happen at the beginning of the game.
Absolutely. Moody came in with one of the best running backs in the region, I would think, and Gabe Wright, that number 33, and you guys were able to kind of hold him at the beginning of the game and really not let him get off to those great starts that he's always been accustomed to.
Yeah, I mean, he's a power runner, and I mean, you can see it right there. He goes over the pile. He was one of the most physical backs that we faced this year, and we had some fits with him through 3 quarters of this game.
Absolutely. When it came to some of the stuff that they were running, it seemed that there was a couple of new wrinkles with them.
They last year they gave us a lot of swing routes on the outside, where it was like the smoke routes on the edges, and I think they tried to come back and do a little bit of that stuff with us this year, but they unbalanced us. They gave us a quad look, and that was something they hadn't done all year long, and so we had to make some major adjustments throughout the game and get ourselves lined up to where we could get out on that quad set and be able to play that swing route.
We've talked about Zay Caldwell and just talk about what he's done, especially on this play right here where he's directing traffic, hits Devontae Whiteside.
Oh man, I mean he's got that it, and I talk about that it with his kids a lot. I think he sits and he watches a lot of football, and he understands what's going on. And I tell him all the time, I said, there's 2 teams you need to watch on Saturday, every Saturday. It's Clemson and it's Auburn.
Right.
And if you'll watch both of those, you'll kind of see what we're doing. And he does that. I mean, he really pays attention to the football game.
And he seems to me like he's one of those guys that he gets better as the season goes along, but he also gets better as the play goes along, because he's gotten now to a point where he's now poised to understand when he can buy himself 2 extra seconds to throw the ball downfield, or nothing's open, let's run it.
Hey, let's go get what we can get, and that's what we tell him a lot of times. If you don't have the play, use your wheels and go ahead and get the yardage.
Right.
And a lot of times he gets us out of trouble just because of his wheels.
Absolutely. First half, as far as from what they brought out, from what you scouted, talk about just as far as they run basically what you thought they would run.
Defensively, they did. Offensively, I mean, at halftime, it was a haywire. There was, I mean, I don't know how many dry erase markers we went through at halftime because they gave us so much stuff. But we had to really go in there and break everything down so our kids understood where they were supposed to be. And I thought we did a good job with that at halftime. And we started out a little sluggish in the second half, but we picked ourselves back up later on in the second half.
You talk about the adjustments on the defense that you guys wanted to see.
Well, the adjustments on the defense on them, we just had to make. They gave us some. They cut away some of our routes on the backside that we wanted to use, and so we had to make some adjustments off of them. And we ran a little bit of a sluggo route on the backside off of our power reads, and that opened some things up for us later on in the game.
Right. They were really physical, and you guys really matched that physicality. Talk about just being physical at this point of the year when nobody's 100% at this point of the season. To be honest with you, I thought this was probably the most physical ball game our kids had played this year. And as far as making tackles, and I hit my headset one time over to the defense side, and I said, guys, y'all are knocking them around. Right.
And so that was something I was glad to see out of our football team, is being physical and being dominant up front and in our secondary.
It seems like the energy level too was also at a really, really high moment. Was it because it was a Thursday night game? Was it a little bit different being Thursday night instead of Friday night? It just seemed that the energy, like you said, you were basically shorted a day of work, but the energy with the team seemed to be there in the first half.
Oh, that's the thing about these guys, and it's been a growing process since our new season started, but it's just their energy level, their their drive. I think the Mumford game when we played it, I think they actually saw, hey, we're not a bad football team. We shouldn't be in this predicament right now, and so they've stepped up their game on that side, and they come to the game. I call it flipping their switch. I said you got to flip your switch to get ready to play this game, and they've been flipping their switch for the last few weeks.
Absolutely. 21-7 was your score at halftime. 38-7 was your score at the end. We'll tell you how that game ended and show you the highlights of the second half of Lincoln and Moody. But first, listen to the band's performance Friday night from Keith Howard Memorial Stadium. We're back with the Lincoln Playbook, second half highlights of Lincoln's game against Moody. Coach, you kicked off to them in the second half. Talk about some of the things you wanted to see early on.
Well, that's the way I wanted to start out. I wanted to start out fast. Our kickoff team came out and they played a phenomenal ball game Friday night because Moody had actually returned a lot of kickoffs this year. And but we came out and we kind of set the tone of this ball game. Our defense went out there and it's like it's been all year. We bend but don't break.
Right.
And don't give up the big play. And that's what we were trying to do in this second half. And Devontae Whiteside gets his second pick of the ball game right there.
And you shows some athleticism bumping up with you earlier.
Oh yeah, me and him have this thing. He's got to come see me if he gets an interception.
Absolutely. And then Zay Caldwell, we've talked about him a million times, and that's just part of his game and sets up this big field goal.
Yeah, it does. And I mean, I don't give Nick Pope a lot of credit, but he's in the 9th grade. He's not one of the bigger kids on the team, but he will go out there and boom a ball in the field goal. And he does a great job for us. He's very patient and does what he's supposed to do.
And then you got another turnover there in the third quarter as well.
Oh yeah, that was a great hit by L.J. Carmichael. He came up and really laid the wood to one of their guys, and the ball came out, and that's another bend but don't break.
Right.
Our defense coming up with a turnover.
Right. We talked about in the past where teams that try to go east and west on you, you want to be able to stop that. It seemed like that, like you were saying, Moody tried to do a lot of that, and you guys are right there on top of it.
Oh yeah, we're doing a better job of tackling in the open field. We had a few arm tackles. That was one of my negatives on my notes for this week. We've got to get corrected, especially out on the outside, and we just can't have any lulls during our defense.
You guys posted a shutout there in the second half. Talk about how big that was for your defense.
It was major, and really and truthfully, we shouldn't have gave up our plays in the first. We've watched the tape with our kids, and they saw that. We should have had a shutout for the full ball game, and we got in some lulls, and we don't need to do that.
Right, and then at every turnover turned into points, whether it's field goals or touchdowns.
That's it, and that's what we're trying to do. Is if you give us something, we need to take it away from you.
Right,
and so that's what we did the whole football game. Was we tried to cause turnovers and try to score right off of them right after we got them.
Absolutely, and you're seeing some of the physical play there as Lincoln closes out the ball game. 38-7 was your final score. Coach, you've now played Moody, St. Clair County, Springville, Hayden, some of these teams that you weren't accustomed to playing. These were all new teams when they finally reclassified everything. Now that the region play is over for the second year before they reclassify again, talk about just what 5A Region 6 was and the kind of competition it was this year.
Well, this year it was a juggernaut, to be honest with you, because a lot of teams had improved. I mean, Hayden was a major team that, and I walked up to the coach after the game. I said, man, you've done a great job with these guys because they've went from very small to a big group and a strong group, and they'll come out and play you hard. Anniston's got some phenomenal players on their team. I mean, it was week in, week out. You always had something that you were going to face that was strong.
Exactly, and it seems to me just kind of the way that the last 2 years have gone, with you guys winning the region championship last year, and then you guys really being a call an inch away from beating Mortimer Jordan and playing well against Springville, playing well against St. Clair County. It's been a fun region to watch, by the way.
It has. It really has. It's been a fun time watching this season. At the beginning of it wasn't very good to me, but you know we battled our way back through, and it's like I told the kids. I said I'm not gonna quit on you.
Right.
You don't quit on me, and I promise you, by the end of the season, we'll be very good, and that's what our kids have done.
Exactly. I know there was a lot of key performers Friday night. I know some of the guys that you want to be able to talk about and mention. We've mentioned, Zay Caldwell. He's just been a monster really all year long. Guys like Devontae Whiteside. Just talk about some of the key performers Friday night.
Well, I mean, you had Zay Caldwell. He went 10 for 18 for 255 yards on passing, and then he only had 3 carries for 58 yards. I mean, that was probably 75% of what we did on offense.
Right.
But the performers with him were Montrell Johnson. I say his name every week.
Yeah.
He's not a very big back, but he just seems to find the hole, and he keeps his feet moving. He had 15 carries for 54 yards. L.J. Carmichael, probably one of our as far as yards per carry, Thursday night was 48 yards, and he also had 7 tackles defensively. So, I mean, he had a great night all the way around. Devontae Whiteside had 4 catches for 140 yards.
Wow.
He's been like – he's had nights like this for the last 3 or 4 weeks.
Exactly.
So, I mean, and then you add 2 interceptions to him, and, I mean, he's had a phenomenal night.
Yeah.
And P.J. Gaddis had 2 catches for 62 yards. And he was – I mean, it's – you don't have just one guy doing it. You have everybody out there, and it's fun to watch them play on Friday nights, and that's what I tell them all the time. I was like, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to come watch you. I can't play it anymore, but I can come out there and I can be your biggest fan.
Absolutely, and you have a biggest fan as well as the Lincoln Booster Club, and any prospective member is welcome to attend. Their meetings Mondays, 6:30 p.m. at First State Bank. They support Coach Brad Wallace, his staff, Lincoln High School, and all sports under the Golden Bear Athletic Program. If you want to join their club, Monday, 6:30 p.m. at First State Bank. We thank them for their support, and we're back with more of the Playbook after the break. And welcome back. Final segment here on the Lincoln Playbook. And Coach, Week 10 holds another big rivalry game against Childersburg. First off, I know that at this point, as we shoot today, you haven't done a ton of scouting on them, but talk about some of the things that you've known about them in the past.
They're very physical. They have a lot of skill guys in their secondary that do a great job with coverage. We're gonna have to make some changes to what we do, but we're not going to change too much. I mean, we don't really want to confuse our kids any, and we want to play fast. Offensively, they've went from an eye and they've gotten into a spread look a little bit. So we're going to have to be ready for 2 different style offenses, a ground pounder, or either they're going to finesse you a little bit. So we've got to be ready for that. And I mean, Coach Fawcett, me and him are good friends. I mean, we've talked. He's reaching right now. He lost 25 seniors last year.
Wow.
So
yeah.
I mean, he's trying to bring his kids together, and believe it or not, he's got a couple of 8th graders starting for him that are really big kids, and I'm wondering what they're going to look like in the next 3 or 4 years, because I mean, one of them's a Chapman kid, and I mean, he's just such a big kid to be in 8th grade.
Right. This is the final game of the 2015 season, also as well as being the final stretch here. Just talk about the way this game, the way they'll be using this game, as a springboard in 2016.
Well, really, I'm going to use this season, and what I want to do. A lot of our kids play basketball. A lot of our kids play baseball. A lot of the football kids do this, and what I want them to get out of it is, let's don't wait until it's too late. Because, I mean, at the beginning of the season, you let a few games slip by you, and then it gets you in a bind at the end.
Right.
And we shouldn't have. I mean, it took all the way to mid-season for us to get it in our mind. Hey, we're a pretty good football team. Let's go play.
Right.
Go into it at the beginning and just keep working and keep striving to get yourself better. And hopefully they can use that with their other sports that they're going to be playing, basketball, baseball, and track. And hopefully they can go into the rest of this school year and use that and maybe be a leader on one of those teams to maybe get that going with one of those sports.
Exactly. Talk about just the kind of work that your seniors have done over the 2015 season. I know we'll dive a lot more into that next week, but just what they've provided, some of the adversity they've had to go through, and then, now being on the other side of region championships and finishing the season really strong.
Well, I mean, you go into the first ball game, and I mean, it's a juggernaut. I mean, you got Pale City right at the beginning. They're 6A school.
Right.
I mean, we've really never faced anybody like that except for the last 2 years, and so I mean, I gave them something hard at the beginning. After that, I really think the seniors, they got frustrated,
right?
And they really got down on themselves a little bit. But I kept talking, and I'd bring a couple of them in my office, and they started understanding what leadership was.
Right.
And about game 5, they started it, and it never let up until the end of the season. And so I'm excited about seeing where these kids grow, and hopefully it'll help them later on in life when they become fathers, when they become in the business world.
Yeah.
Maybe they can understand what that leadership is needed for.
Absolutely. You play on again another Thursday night. You've had to deal with that in the past, this past week, and race weekends before. Talk about just that atmosphere being on a Thursday night, and the fact that you might have a couple extra fans there.
Well, that was one of the things. We also wanted to play it on Thursday night, so if we got into playoffs, we could go scout on a Friday. But our kids, they seem to love to play on Thursday night.
Right.
I mean, they came back into school excited on Friday this past week, and so I'm anxious to see what it's going to be. It's going to actually be a short school week for us this week because we have Monday off because of race traffic, and then Tuesday and Wednesday we'll be at school, and then it's game day again.
Right.
So I mean, it's happening quick. I'm anxious to see where we're going to be at Thursday night.
Absolutely. Coach, best of luck to you Thursday night against Childersburg. A big, fantastic rivalry between two Talladega County teams. Go out and support the Lincoln Golden Bears this Thursday night against Childersburg. We'll be here to wrap that game up and the 2015 season up next week here on the Lincoln Playbook. We'll see you then.